We are joined today with Michael Huber, the President and CEO of the Indy Chamber. Michael, thanks a lot for being here today to talk more about the Rapid Response Program and the partnership with Jobvite. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Andre. Good to be here.
As we look at this program that's been rolled out, not all chambers are doing this. What really drove the Indy Chamber's decision to start the Rapid Response Program? Can you share a little bit about that for us?
So I think in mid-March, when a lot of the country realized that coronavirus was going to create a huge public health challenge and then now a huge economic challenge. In the Indianapolis metro area, the first waves of the crisis were really in industries like hospitality and businesses closing their doors or severely restricting their hours, laying off employees, having to furlough employees. And I mean, the first wave of it hitting the Indianapolis metro area, I think we realized it was real when major events, sporting events and conventions got canceled in mid-March. Big Ten basketball, NCAA regional basketball, other conventions. And one thing about Indianapolis, we really pride ourselves on being a sports city and a top 10 convention city. And therefore, we have restaurants and hotels and other service companies that really support themselves on these huge events, the Indianapolis 500 in May, which has now been moved to August. So we started hearing in mid-March from dozens of businesses, a lot of them restaurants, retail businesses, service businesses that have been hit really hard by event cancellations. And we received dozens of questions from companies saying, I'm going to have to cut back my employees' hours. I'm going to have to lay off employees. I'm going to have to, do things very differently. And so we had a significant amount of workers, especially in the service industry, looking for employment. And then at that same time, and this is the unexpected part, we heard a lot from logistics companies and e-commerce companies who were ramping up their hiring. And there was an immediate disconnect that was created. And although we have workforce development organizations that do very impactful work, and we have many partners that we work with in workforce development who are very good and very capable, we saw the need to provide this fast connecting function to that could connect employers who were hiring and employees whose lives had just been disrupted, and make those connections very, very fast in a way that the traditional workforce systems do not. And it's something that I think we had known was a community need before coronavirus, but the closures of business and the disruption to many of our industries just sped it up in the middle of March when all around the U.S., but particularly in Indianapolis, we were trying to figure out, okay, how can we adjust to life after the COVID-19?
No, that's really good insight. Thank you. I remember I was at an event downtown at the NCAA Hall of Champions for a friend's work event. Right as this happened, they were awarding prizes at the final to the regionals there. And as the event happened, they were finding out the NCAA had just canceled the tournament. To see the shock effects on that, and they had 100% said they wanted to move forward with the event. They wanted to keep having it for that night because they knew they were employing so many Indiana hospitality workers that might be out of a lot of work they were anticipating. So I think the idea that individuals are being distressed, but also the idea that there are still a lot of avenues of the people that are hiring and bringing them together is really powerful, and it's been impressive to see that from the program. And I think you touched on this a little bit. Can you touch a little bit more on the different types of employers and industries participating? Because you said logistics, we obviously know healthcare, but a little bit of insight there would be very helpful and beneficial.
Yeah. So it's a wide range of industries, even broader than what I would have expected. But the companies that come to mind, well, I'll go the employees first. The employees, the service workers have been hit really, really hard, and our hearts go out to them, because one of the things this crisis has made me realize is that service industry. I mean, many folks do it full time at restaurants and bars and do it and do very well. Many people work in these industries, and on the side, they're putting themselves through school. They may be artists. We have a significant part of our musicians and artists community in Indianapolis also supports himself partially through the service industries. And you have a lot of people and talented people now who are looking for work, looking for a new full-time job or looking for part-time work. On the employer side, logistics comes to mind. The demand for certain subsectors of logistics has actually increased, while, a lot of us as households and as businesses are getting, essential goods shipped to us now at a faster rate than we did before. So logistics is hiring. We have a lot of tech companies, particularly in e-commerce, that are hiring. And in our market, it's the obvious, Amazon and FedEx employ a lot of people in our market. But then you get down into this middle market and smaller companies in those industries as well, who are hiring and looking for talent. And prior to this, had some limited options out there. We're also seeing some demand in healthcare companies that are a part of the COVID response, that are producing test kits, that are producing PPE and producing equipment that are going to help our small businesses prepare and get ready for the reopening of the economy, which is partly underway. And these companies that are producing test kits and PPE are looking for really talented people as well. So it's our job just to be able to reach employers who need talent very fast and be able to reach job seekers very quickly and see what we can do to capture their information and help them understand their options by routing them as fast as possible to in some cases it can route them directly to companies. In some cases it can route them to workforce development organizations that are going to be best equipped to help them find their next opportunity.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I think the one thing I hear you come back to is speed. Obviously in today's climate, the idea is about being efficient, but also being able to do things very quickly. I would love if you could share a little bit about how this went from an idea to how you were to bring this to life and where you are right now as it kind of keeps evolving. Because I feel like, as this scales and grows, it's got the impact to make a lot of good across, the Indiana state, touch so many lives.
Yeah. So honestly, it started off as how do we perform a triage and connecting function, and we were thinking pretty low tech at first. As my colleague Liz Holden says, we were thinking she said it's this connecting function is something that we can do just on elbow grease initially. And we started off by just listing companies on our website, providing links directly to job postings. And when we got to the low hundreds of number of job postings requested by companies, we knew that we were onto something. We created a few weeks ago what we consider to be a pretty simple intake form that would require the job seeker, 5 minutes or less was really what we were looking at to capture all that information so we could route it to the right point. One thing that the partnership with Jobvite gets us to do is speed up 5 minutes down to as low as 30 seconds and enable of different forms of communication via text and chat. And that's functionality that we do not have as Indy Chamber. So the hope is that we're reaching employers who need talent and helping them do a scan of who's available very quickly. But then our hope is also that we can engage the job seeker at a scary time, a time when there's a lot of fear out there. And in a very short amount of time, the job seeker can enter his or her information and receive feedback really quickly. So to answer your question, it started off just pretty low tech. Let's be very practical. This partnership with Jobvite has emerged, and we got very excited about the ability to engage with that job seeker for very little time and very little trouble that the job seeker has to go through.
No, thanks. All that's fantastic to hear, and I think it's been great to see the talent come across. It's everything from a factory worker to a 25-year IT professional that might have been displaced. So from the talent standpoint, it's a full hub, and I think the employers that are hiring, they're going to have the access to a wide range of skill sets for the different roles that they have. As you look at kind of scaling the program as things are growing with it, could you talk a little bit about how the Indy Chamber plans to measure success from the initiative?
Yeah, I mean. So a couple of different ways. Number one is how many job seekers can we get placed in meaningful opportunities? It becomes a little bit challenging to track because we're not a workforce development board, but we do have commitments from these employers to help us track the individuals. So we should know after some period of time how many of our connections have resulted into meaningful job opportunities. On the employer side, it's how many roles that they posted can we help them fill, and we're also interested in how fast we were able to achieve that as well, because this is a new service for us. Employers use such a wide range of services for trying to identify talent through their own recruiting companies and their own recruitment platforms. They rely on our workforce development organizations, but I think in identifying the number of meaningful connections and the speed with which we made that happen, that's really the thing. Um, we want to make sure that this is seen as um, a a technology and a service that exists as kind of an umbrella that is not going to compete against our workforce development organizations, but it's a service, it's a portal that you can enter if you're an employer or a job seeker, and start to make those connections really, really fast. And so I guess the short answer would be measuring quality connections and speed would be the two main components that would tell us how successful we are.
No, that's fantastic. I really appreciate that. I think it's been great to have the site up and running on Friday. We're already getting to see the analytics behind everything, saying, hey, the 10 jobs that we have spotlighted from companies from Roche to landscape companies all across, we can see how many clicks those job postings are generating when those individuals are seeing that, clicking on that, and going directly to apply from that link. So that's very powerful to see that, and to really see that it's taking resonance with the individuals. You talked about speed again as far as software implementation. Can you share a little bit about how Jobvite was able to help as far as once this became a partnership, how quickly they were able to get things built out and up and running for the Indy Chamber to launch the program?
Yeah, the Jobvite partnership creates just a user-friendly platform, both for the employer and the employee. And like I said earlier, we had put up a site that was getting the job done, and that was fairly low tech. Once we made the connection that Jobvite would be able to help us, they were able to step in a matter of days and perhaps hours in terms of helping us realize what was possible. I wouldn't have even occurred to me that employers and employees could, use this system using their phones. That it could be that easy for them to communicate via text message on something like this. And so the fact that we've only been talking about this tool for a few weeks, and Jobvite brought ideas to the table that progressed in a matter of hours. It makes us very excited in just thinking about the potential. How many more employers could we enroll? How many more employees could we get using the system? If we're engaging hundreds today, we could see us easily engaging thousands. And if we can do that, it starts to make a dent in what is the most challenging economic crisis of our lifetimes.
Yeah, it's really powerful, and I appreciate the benefit of working with the Indy Chamber and the flexibility there too, and the ideas brought to the table. Everything is on the table right now as far as ideas, and it's been great to see everybody kind of work together with this. I'll get you out of here on this last question. Any advice to give other chambers across the United States that would be considering a plan like this to help out their current economic state?
Yeah, I think this is possible. I think this is possible in every city and in every region, or something like this. If I had to spell out the ingredients, I would say support of the public sector, so support of your mayor or mayors, and a critical mass of your workforce development organizations, which we are fortunate to have. A private sector partner like a chamber and or economic development organization that can provide that kind of intermediary function. Strong outreach to your employers who are willing to be a part of the platform. They're going to benefit too, but you really need a critical mass of employers who see the value and want to be a part of it. And then we got lucky because of Jobvite's capabilities match very well up with this tool. So if you've got public sector support, if you've got a chamber or economic development organization playing the intermediary, you've got a starting point, critical mass of employers, and then a technology provider who's able to step in and do some new things. I think, frankly, if you've got 3 out of 4, you've got a really good chance to create something like this in your own region. We're benefiting from it, and it is very exciting that this is only the beginning.
No, I appreciate that. I think, with the early adoption, you guys being the trailblazer, I think this is a great way to set the tone for what, the rest of the nation can definitely copy and have similar results. So we're excited for the partnership. And again, thank you so much for the time today. And we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Andre. We really appreciate Jobvite's ability to power this solution. And the most important thing to me is we're bringing hope at a time when there's a large segment of our own neighbors who don't have hope. So if we can help illuminate their opportunities at a time when this really challenging economy, I get excited about what will happen when we're in growth mode once again, and helping to reboot the economy through tools like this.
Fantastic. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Mike. We really appreciate the
Thank you.
partnership. Take care.